If y'all want to join too, you're more than welcome to. We are open on Wednesday nights now. Sadly, you're going to see a lot of me tonight. I am doing worship, but I'm also doing lesson tonight. It's weird talking to a person and camera at the same time. But if you guys want to follow along, sadly we don't have any words up on the screen, but you can use your phones. What is the song name? Rooftops by Jesus Culture. There we go. So, yeah. Welcome. I'm so awkward right now. No, I'm always awkward when I address the camera. That's why you guys should come. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for tonight. God, thank you for helping us get used to a new normal. And help us as we enter into worship and just allow your Spirit to manifest in this place, God. Because your word says where 2 or 3 or more in your name, you are in the midst of them. Right now we welcome you into our midst. In Jesus' name. You got the baby?
Baby.
Alright. No, I guess I'll stay on. Because I've got it back down. I'm so happy to see faces.
Try to speak here because
Try to speak here.
yeah, we'll capture the audio.
Okay. Are you holding on for dear life? Yeah. Hey guys. I see you have flowers. And you've got a dress. So, my husband kind of sprung it on me on teaching for you guys tonight. So, we are talking about broken praise. And there are two men in the Bible that I can really only think of praising through brokenness. And that would be Job and David. I mean, I look at what Job went through. His entire family got wiped out in one sitting because of a wager. And I'm very happy that we have not had the same wager made about our family, because when the enemy comes in and he says, I bet if I did this, they would give up. It's not exactly the greatest feeling in the world to hear. And God's saying, you know what, test them, try it. It's not gonna work. And then when David met Bathsheba, he met her before she knew him. He met her on his rooftop looking down to hers and seeing her in a bathtub, and decided that he desired her, he wanted her. And the baby that was conceived out of that died. And during the process of that baby dying, David mourned and mourned and mourned, and then the baby died, and it was like he shifted into praise. Because it was like he was trying to get God's attention, saying, look, I need you to save my child. But then after it was over, he was like, you know what, God is still God, God is still good. I'm sad that he didn't intervene, but you know what, I'm going to praise him anyway. So, this is not my Bible, because my Bible went to youth with me Friday night, and I don't know where it went after that. So, sadly, you guys are going to see me not really know what I'm doing with this thing, because I don't know it. So we go to Job 11. So this is after Satan has entered the court of God and said, hey, can I do this? And this is God's response. He says, I just had it. Okay, but reach out and take away everything he has. Oh, this is Satan talking. And surely he will curse you to your face.
The book of Job.
Book of Job, chapter 1. So, Job's sons and daughters were just going about life as normal. My son is currently tearing apart a journal. Job's sons were going about life as normal. And it's pretty cool that we have all parents here, because you know what it's like to love your children with everything you've got. You okay, Alana? No, she just looks tired. Wednesday nights are very informal. It's okay to talk and stuff. So, Job's daughters and sons went to one of the sons' houses, and they were having a feast, and they were enjoying, and everything was merry, everything was great. And then the house collapsed, killing everyone in the house. And a messenger came up to Job, and he's like telling Job, look, this horrific thing just happened to your children. But while that messenger is still speaking, another messenger comes and say, look, the rest of them are dead too. As a parent, we're preparing for our second one, but we've already got one. If something happened to Nathan, I'm sure if something happened to your little one too. If something happened to them, and then while that person's still speaking, and another one runs up to you and says, by the way, the rest are gone too. As a parent, that kind of just crushes you right there. It's like,
This is my lifeblood. This is bone of my bone. This is my DNA. This is my children that I was entrusted to protect, and now they're gone in a flash. But Job reacted like a dad. It says in Job, he stood up and tore his robe in grief. Then he shaved his head and fell to the ground in worship. This is all found in chapter 1. And he said, I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be naked when I leave. The Lord gave me what I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord. All right. So, Kyle and Sherelle, you have Arya, Alana. I want to call him Aiden, but I know that it is. Ha! Yes, that's the first time I haven't gotten it wrong. This is why I don't use names. Our youth group kids even know that. So you've got those three. Something happens to Arya and Alana, and then while someone is coming to tell you something just happened to them, another person arrives and says, by the way, Aiden too. Something has happened to Aiden too. And then your response is to grieve, but then you hit your knees and you say, praise the Lord. Is that a normal reaction?
I feel like that would be extremely hard for me to have that reaction, if I'm being honest, because I would be crushed and I wouldn't know what to do. I would need God to help me to be able to do that.
I know. My friends say I'm violent, which I am. I'm a highly volatile person, especially if something is coming against my child. You're going to learn some new words tonight. I have robots? Okay. I'm a highly violent person, especially if something is coming against my family. If it's coming against my family, I want to get my hands around whatever it is his throat and make sure that it stops. Like there's not even a muscle twitching from response. Like I want to make sure it's done. And I think that would be my response. If somebody ran up to me and said, look, something's happened to Nathan, I'd be like, all right, who did it? And where can I hurt them most? Where can I get them? And I was reading this, and God's like, I know that's a really hard response, but do you remember my child? Do you remember my son? Do you remember what I watched? And I was sitting there, and I was thinking, it's like, God, but you don't understand it. But the thing is, he does. What he gave permission for Job, he was already prepared to do himself. And there's often times that things happen in our lives, and our immediate response is, why God? But the thing is, as a mom, I'm not going to ask Nathan to do anything that I won't do myself. As parents, we're not going to ask our children to do something that we wouldn't do ourselves, especially when they reach that point of being a parent themselves. I know with my mom and I, our relationship has drastically changed after I had kids. I'm sure it's changed for you too. And for you guys, your relationship with your parents probably changed. I know for both of us, we noticed a shift, that we were able to talk about certain things that we didn't understand before, like baby rash. When my mom told me you need rash cream, I was like, for what? Why do I need that? And then I had Nathan, I was like, I understand the world now. I understand everything. And Job was put in a position that God already said, you know what, I'm going to walk through this too. I'm going to understand everything you're going through. I'm not asking you to do anything that I'm not willing to put myself through. I'm willing to give up everything. And I remember there's a book, it's called The Hiding Place. It's written by Corrie ten Boom. Corrie ten Boom is known for what her family did in history. Her family during the Holocaust hid Jews to protect them, to make sure they stayed safe. And And she went to prison. They found them out. They went to prison. Her father died in prison, and a soldier killed her sister in prison. And she came face to face with that soldier one day. She was doing a conference, she was teaching, and she came face to face with him, and she was talking about forgiving those who have wronged you in any way, shape, or form. And then she came face to face with the man who murdered her only sibling. And she said that she could not forgive him. In that moment, she could not. Eventually, she was able to. But she made one comment that has impacted, I think, how we parent. And she said, be careful how tightly you hold on to your children, because it will hurt even more when God pries them from your hands. And I think Job, in this moment, understood that sentence. Without ever hearing it, he understood it, which was why, instead of the, I'm going to kill whatever did this, instead of the completely distraught, he was still mourning, but he was still able to say, praise the Lord, because he understood that sentence. And I believe he understood where his children were going too, which is why it's so important as parents to raise our children up to know God, because when something happens, we have that confidence knowing that everything's going to be okay. But people have had less happen to them and they run. Because Jonah was just told to go to Nineveh. He was just told to go to Nineveh, and he ran the other direction. Elijah did miracles for God. Okay, so Elijah killed an entire cult. He killed all of the prophets to that cult, and then one woman threatened him. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of prophets that he killed. One woman threatened him, and he runs. And ourselves. What happens, and I want to hear from you guys, what happens when you've made your mind up about something and then a trusted person comes in and starts whispering negatives about that something that you have already decided positive?
Second guess what you're going to do is right, or
Exactly. You start to doubt. You start allowing that little voice saying, well, maybe your decision wasn't the greatest. Maybe you should do this. I remember in high school, second guessing was my downfall on some tests, because I would have the answer, I would know it's the answer, and then a teacher would come over my shoulder and say, how do you know that's the right answer? And then it's like, wait, what? And I would change my answer because I think it's wrong, and then the teacher would come to me after the test and be like, why'd you change your answer? It was right. Then why did you say over my shoulder? How do you know? But we have things that come in and do that. So in Job chapter 2, it says, then the Lord asked Satan, have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil, and he has maintained his integrity, even though you urged me to harm him without cause. So when we praise in difficult moments, when Aria, when you listen to mommy, when it's hard, you know she notices? Yeah. When you listen to a teacher when it's hard, they notice. Do they give you presents if you listen? You got Christmas. Did you know that God does that too? When we listen when it's hard, God also gives gifts and presents. That's awesome. But he does. When we praise in the difficult moments, God notices. I mean, as a parent, it's so nice when Nathan is going for something. It doesn't happen often. It really doesn't, not with a toddler. When he's going for something that he really wants and I know is not good for him, and I say stop, and he turns around and sits and just looks at me and he actually stops. Doesn't happen often. But when he does, we notice, right? As parents, we notice. And so does God. And because God said, and he has maintained his integrity. So every time we worship in church, every time we lift our hands when things are hard, every time we blow kisses to mommy while she's teaching, every time we do something when everything in us is struggling to do it, when it's a positive thing that we are trying to do, God takes notice. On Friday night, we talked to our teens about Mary Magdalene. Not Mary Magdalene. It doesn't actually say her name is Mary Magdalene in that passage. But it's believed that she was Mary Magdalene. When she came in and she knelt at Jesus' feet and started to wash his feet with her tears, you're looking at a prostitute. You're looking at a prostitute in the presence of a bunch of men, religious men, who view her very, very negatively. And she is going to the one person who's considered one of the greatest prophets of all time during that era. It wasn't fully believed yet that he was the Son of God until after he resurrected. Then it was like the light bulbs turned on, like, oh my word. But she went in through a difficult thing. She pushed through the fear of what was going to happen to her, and Jesus took notice. He took notice of her. When we praise in difficult moments, God takes notice. We speak about God's goodness. We praise him cheerfully, but when the darkness comes, he is still God and he is still good, and we should still praise. And I know that's easier said than done because I've been in that position. I've been in the position where my father's in the hospital and they're saying they don't know if he's coming home. And I've been in the position where the little girl that I babysit is currently going in for another operation because her veins don't grow. I've been in the position where my son was in the NICU and we were watching as other families were going home. But I think the music that we pour into ourselves is what helps us in those moments. Ben, I think, created an entire playlist of worship music specifically for the time in the NICU. It was music that spoke to us in that moment. And we have all different moments, from marriage moments, to kid moments, to job failure moments, to things just the whole world turning on its top. And it's important to listen to the worship that helps in those moments because it connects to us deeper. In 2 Samuel 13, David went to God and his child was very sick. David mourned and fasted, but once the child died, David dressed and went to the temple to praise. He worshiped in the pain, and he is known as the man after God's own heart. Everyone, his leaders thought he was crazy. He is the king of a nation. He is allowing his child to bite him. He is the king of a nation. His leaders are seeing what's happening. They're seeing his child alive and him mourning and fasting and praying, and they're thinking he's lost it. And then the child dies, and he dresses up nice, and he goes to the temple, and he starts praying, and they start really questioning who their king is. They're like, is there something wrong? I'm trying not to use certain words because they can be offensive. Oftentimes, our praise in times of sorrow shock people. The world is under the mindset to drop it all if they are hurting. But we as Christians have responsibilities to uphold. And that's the kicker. Because when life starts hitting, it's really easy to drop everything. It's so nice. I can be a hermit. I love being a hermit, actually. If something is coming against me, if something's hurting my heart, I want to just retreat to my house and say, you know what, I'm done for a little bit. I'll be back when I feel better. But the sad thing is after Mary watched Jesus die on the cross, after she witnessed her son's brutal death, she got to work. She started witnessing. She kept taking care of her family. She started gathering people together. And I think as a mom, that's one of the hardest things to do because you just watched what happened to your child, and now you're picking yourself up and you're ready to continue working. Maybe she was a workaholic. We can say that. She was a workaholic. Because it's very tempting, and I'm not saying that it's wrong to disconnect from the world. If something happens that completely shakes you, that tears you apart, that breaks your heart, it's okay to take time to work on that. It's okay to take time and allow some healing to take place. And it's okay to tell people, look, I'm not up to it right now. Please, just give me time to heal. It's okay to demand those things. But we also need to be aware of the things that we're allowing into us, the music that we're listening to. Psychological studies have proven that music affects the way we feel, to the point it affects our minds too. Music can completely rewrite how we think. And this is why broken praise is so important. It causes you to heal. So, that's all I have. It's really short. And when Alana and Aria come back, you know what? Don't cut it yet. Aria, you want to do a song with me?
Yeah.
All right, baby. Come on up here. You remember a song we did in nursery a long time back?
Yeah.
You do? The created song?
Yeah.
You ready to repeat?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to pray. God created. Say God created. On day one. Night and day, it was good. God created on day two. Oh my word, I forgot the song.
What was that?
Did you repeat it?
What was that?
Do you remember it?
What was that? It's my orange house. The one that they did.
The land and sea,
Red sea.
and it was good. God created on day three all the plants, and it was good. God created Yeah, we're getting to there. God created on day four the birds and animals, and it was good. God created on day five the sun and moon, and it was good.
It's an astronaut.
Yeah. Ready? God created on day six you and me, and it was good. The end. Good job praising with me. Have a good